Hello and welcome to a dissection of sorts on Chaos Space Marines post Faith and Fury. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I hope I don't scare off any of the newer subscribers, and that the new take on the format is well received. Let's carry on. To summarize, let's review what Faith and Fury provided Chaos Space Marines. Well, I would categorize it as a suite of new backend tools, that being stratagems, relics, and warlord traits for all the traitor legions minus Black Legion, and the guys with their own codexes. And while those additions are indeed beneficial, it fails to bring the traitor legions to the same level as the Loyalist Marines, and instead places them in line to where Vigilus Ablaze boosted Black Legion. Yeah, it's not ideal, but I stand behind my stance that it's clearly a stopgap, and the Chaos Space Marines will eventually see a proper 2.0 Codex rewrite in the future. One that I can only assume will fix the objective, fundamental problems with the toolkit. With Chapter Approved 2019 on the horizon, I'm excited for what's to come, and what it could be bringing for the Chaos Space Marines. Wait, Chaos Space Marines are going down in points? So why am I framing this as a negative? Well, I had an experience recently, one that rubbed me the wrong way. But I thought on it, with the glass half full attitude I often do, and figured it would get remedied. But in light of this recent news, I feel as though I should share with this small platform of mine what I was hoping would happen with the Chaos Space Marines. It's an idea I believe is a better way to go. Here's my radical opinion. All Space Marines should have a base wounds characteristic of 2. Yeah, it seems logical to me that by default, a super soldier, augmented in power armor, whether hero or heretic, should be 2 wounds. By their very nature, Astartes should be elite shock troops, and the 1 wound platform doesn't cut it. Earlier, I spoke about a recent experience I had. Well, here's the full story. I decided to take my salamanders out for a game at my friendly local game store. It's worthy of note that over the course of this year, I have shifted the infantry of my army to the Primaries type, with the exception of a few scouts. I ended up playing a game against my buddy's Iron Warriors, which included a moderate amount of Chaos Space Marines and some cultists. And I came out of the game a little disheartened. I couldn't help but empathize for his position, watching as his Chaos Space Marines died to small arms fire. You see, 1 wound Chaos Space Marines don't feel like the legendary warriors that conquered the galaxy during the Great Crusade. They don't feel like the intimidating veterans of the Long War. In my mind, the reason for this is fairly clear. To appropriate some terms, there is dissonance in the abstraction. Compared to the standard 2-wound Primaris Intercessor, which takes twice the punishment from 1 damage small arms weapons and instead demands the use of specialty weapons such as plasma guns or autocannons to one-shot them, 1-wound Marines often fail to feel superior to standard infantry. And those are the stats, but even when framing the random nature of dice and what that represents in the narrative of play, the 2-wound Marines handle it far more elegantly. For instance, swingy dice causing death dealt by small arms fire is framed as, wow, the luck really went against me there. Good thing these Marines are 2 wounds each, or else twice this amount would be dead. And those special weapons, which deal multiple damage per shot, are inherently expensive, and can be better swallowed, resulting in a less salty aftertaste, as they are valuable dangerous weapons, not just war gear all soldiers get for free. And it is for this exact reason I switched all my infantry to the Primaris type, because it's a more evocative abstraction of what it is to be a Space Marine. So we can drop the points of the Chaos Space Marine, and by extension the Tactical Marine, forever until a T4 1 wound 3-up save and bolt gun feel like a great deal. But the abstraction for the super elite soldier is better suited to being more valuable and being outnumbered compared to their enemies, which is why I think it'd be best if all Marines were 2 wounds. And there just so happens to be a Primaris model we can look to as an easy comparison, the Reaver. Taken without any upgrades and the bolt carbine option, the 16-point Reaver is a very comparable package to the existing Firstborn Marine, bar the one ability that is largely negligible. But the Reaver's bolt carbine is Assault 2 versus the Rapid Fire 1 of the standard bolt gun. So let's say our Firstborn Marines are 15 points per model and now have the Reaver stat line. Thank you for finally being useful, Reavers. You may now leave. But beyond the aforementioned, more accurate abstraction, there are further benefits. Certainly, I'm sure GW would want to push the sales of those sweet new Chaos Space Marines that they lovingly crafted, which also happen to nail that iconic Chaos Space Marine aesthetic. And on the Loyalist side, I am sure hobbyists inclined to kit bash would buy all sorts of kits to effectively represent the Firstborn Marines crossing the Rubicon. At least from a real-world perspective. But if you want GW, go nuts and make it so. I'm sure that your loyal fandom, fearing their Firstborn Marines are going to be axed from the universe, would appreciate their storied epic heroes remain in-world, but they can keep their respective roles rather than being forced to cross the Rubicon and adopt the Primaris template unit patterns. Another tangible benefit is the clear through line this creates on the tabletop with how base sizes correlate to wounds for both the Loyalists and the Heretics. See, in this new hypothetical paradigm, 25mm bases denote 1 wound infantry, covering the cultists and scouts. 32mm bases would denote the standard 2 wound marines. 40mm bases, as seen on Gravis units, denote 3 wound models. And yes, it would stand to reason Terminator plate would also slot in here as well. And 50mm bases already reflect the heavy support Obliterators and Centurions nicely, which have already been bumped up to 4 wounds. So at this point, I think I've made enough of an argument for why I think 2 wound Marines should be the standard. Yes, there are some issues this fundamental change would create, but they are issues which I think a little ingenuity on the designer's part can solve. The obvious one to me is how this affects transports. Here's my take on it. Firstly, the whole Primaris not fitting in the standard vehicle is BS, and that needs to go. But for the sake of simplicity, let's work within the Chaos Codex. Starting with the standard Rhino, the 2 wound 32mm standard Chaos Space Marine model should probably only have capacity for 6 models. No space for any Terminators or Obliterators / Mutilators. It obviously can't be 10 models because it would be obscene for a Rhino to protect 20 wounds, especially if those were, say, 10 Khorne Berserkers. And the Land Raider can remain as is, transporting 10 2-wound Chaos Space Marines, with Terminators taking up 2 spots and Obliterators and Mutilators taking up 3 spots. And wouldn't you know it, it's strikingly similar to the Primaris vehicle's transport paradigm. Speaking of which, for those curious on the Loyalists Solution, I threw together this chart. It's pretty easy to see how far the simpler proposed setup is over the current bizarre split dichotomy, where vehicles can fit Centurions but not Primaris Marines. And I think that pretty much closes off my whole spiel on why I think all Marines should be 2 wounds and the benefits of such a paradigm would provide. But before I close off this video, there is a topic related to 2 wound Chaos Space Marines I feel I must cover. On the topic of Chaos Primaris, I land vehemently in opposition to the idea. Thematically, I think it's the most boring thing ever to repeat what caused the forces of Chaos to acquire Marines in the first place. For all the hate the Primaris get, one of the good benefits of their introduction is that it demonstrates where the Adeptus Astartes are 10,000 years after the heresy. So instead of Chaos just getting Primaris too, how about we see what the Heretic Astartes would be doing in that time? How their methods, practices, sciences have changed. And I think, or rather hope, we already have the seeds of where GW is headed, the Demonkin. How much more interesting is it that instead of Chaos Repulsors and Chaos Intercessors, we instead get to bear witness to how far the Heretic Astartes have strayed from the Emperor's design? If the Firstborn Marines must stay weak with 1 wound, I sincerely hope that the forces of Chaos's Primaris equivalent are the Demonkin. Possessed, yeah, those old guys, should in my mind be reimagined and reframed to be the equivalent of the Intercessor, the dark mirror to contrast the Primaris. There are a few reasons that drew me to the premise. The first is that, well, these guys are currently 2 wounds in game already, creating a nice rules parallel, in addition to fitting the bill thematically. And secondly, they are a kit that is in desperate need of a redo, especially when you compare them to the new Greater Possessed. And I can't think of a better justification in lore for changing and repositioning these guys than the Great Rift splitting open, causing whatever changes and psychic awakenings necessary to occur. So yeah, I think Demonkin being the Primaris equivalent for the Heretic Astartes is far and away a better alternative. And for those who enjoy open play and narrative games, I thought I would share a homebrew datasheet I threw together for my local playgroup. Possessed Reimagined. And on that note, this is the real end of the video. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. What do you guys think about Chaos and Standard Marines being 2 wounds as opposed to 1? You guys know my stance on it, and I would love to hear yours, so please leave a comment on this video. And if you are in support of 2 wound Marines, why not go ahead and give this video a like? And you can subscribe for notifications for future videos. These were my thoughts on Chaos Space Marines post Faith and Fury, and I just wanted to share them with all of you. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.